By this time, a lot of men and women of doubtful reputation were hanging around Jesus. Listening intently, the Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased. Not at all pleased. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggers this story. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders, rejoicing, and when you got home, call on your friends and neighbors, saying, "Celebrate with me. I found my lost sheep." Count on it. There's more joy in heaven over one sinner's rescued life than over 99 good people in no need of rescue. Or imagine a woman who has 10 lost coins, or 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call her friends and neighbors, "Celebrate with me, I found my lost coin." Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
We sometimes think that the journey to Jerusalem, Jesus' final journey to that sacred city, happens only in the days leading up to Holy Week, starting on Palm Sunday. Luke records that this journey took a much longer time. And there are a series of parables that Luke recalls having been shared by Jesus to the 12, to the larger community of disciples, and indeed to anyone, Pharisee, Sadducee, Essene, Roman, that happened to be within earshot. Now, we know that there are certain of Jesus' parables, his stories, that just seem to resonate with us. And they seem to connect to where we find ourselves. Maybe a certain parable was told when you were a little girl or little boy, gathered around your grandpa's or grandma's knees, and it was the one that they loved. And so the way they told it made it mean something special to you. Other stories, maybe you saw a painting or you saw a play that depicted this message in a way that now I get it. Now I understand why this story is important. In this 15th chapter of Luke's account, he offers 3 of these parables, 3 of these stories. You'll hear me say many times, anytime the number 3 appears in Scripture, it's important. Pay attention. Say it with me.
It's important. Pay attention.
Okay. 3 parables about something lost and something found. The first parable we heard was the lost sheep. And this is a really wonderful, comforting image. Jesus as the good shepherd who goes and finds us. Maybe you've seen those paintings of Jesus with a little lamb draped over his shoulders. It's such a wonderful image. But we try to explain it away and say, well, this was clearly not meant to be a literal thing, because who in their right mind would sacrifice 99 sheep just to go out and get one? If you think that's a parable about lost sheep, you're missing the point. This has nothing to do with sheep. It has nothing to do with shepherds. It has nothing to do with the social economic structure of the ancient world. This is about you, here in the 21st century, and a God who is in search of you. And you think, well, wait a second. I'm in church this morning. I'm in worship. I'm singing in the choir. I'm playing the piano. I'm ushering. I mean, I'm invested. Jesus is still looking for you. This past week or so, I've been rereading The Interior Castle by St. Teresa of Avila. And in it, she talks, I'm in the 6th mansion in this castle. I think there are 7. And she is still saying, God is looking for you. I mean, if you've gotten to the 6th mansion in her worldview in this book, if you've gotten that far, you're committed. I mean, you know God, you love God, you're searching with God, you're aware of your own sin, you're aware of the world around you, but you're in search of union, a deeper union. And she tells her, the nuns that she's writing this for, if you think that you have found the answer, and that aren't you special? You're no closer than someone who had never set out on the journey. You see, what Luke records Jesus saying to this assembly, there were the sinners, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, the people who had fallen away through various activities. And the people that we say, well, they are certainly in need of salvation. They just have to be saved from themselves, if nothing else. And we start to think of ourselves as somehow better. And even good, decent, God-fearing, church folks fall into this trap of distinguishing layers of righteousness. And this is one of those things where when you read a parable like this, and you start to see yourself not as one of the 99 in the sheep pen, but the one lost on the hillside, the parable takes on a different meaning. Because, and this is an important part for us this morning. Do you know why that 100th sheep was not in the fold? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Jesus doesn't say. Luke doesn't say. The early church, as they studied these teachings of Jesus, never asked the question, well, what do you think they did to deserve the separation from God? As one of my professors at Wesley said, sin is anything that separates you from God. It could be family. It could be favorite activity. It could be boredom. Anything that separates you from union with God. And that kind of changes the narrative. Because Jesus isn't off in search of people who are committing heinous sins, although he's certainly doing that. But he's also in search of us sitting here this morning. He's in search of me. Am I truly in love with God? Have I not done everything I can, but I've been open to everything that God is doing? And that's a challenge for us in the 21st century, just as it was a challenge for Jesus' listeners. This idea that if you're a person of faith, you have it all sorted out. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you say, I've committed my life to Him, and I expect this. I have earned my place in heaven. Me. But Jesus says, this isn't about you finding God. This isn't about you making a decision. This is about being aware that God is in your life. And not saying, let's do something special to mark this relationship. Let's have a big ceremony. Let's do all this. Instead, he says, simply be present with me. If you do that, there's a whole lot more that you haven't even imagined yet. Whatever you think heaven is going to be like, set it aside. Because it's not going to be what you think. It's not even going to be what the Bible, what you think you read in there. No one knows but God. Now the question is, do you have the faith to trust God with eternity? The second parable, and this is one of those crazy ones that you don't see plays written about it. You don't see movies or novels written about it. Parable of the lost coin. Now, have any of you ever lost anything in your house? I mean, every day for some of us. Here's a woman who had 10 coins. It doesn't matter if she had 1 coin or 10 coins or 100 coins. Fact was, one was lost. Now, unlike the sheep, who could have wandered off on its own, it could have been startled or scared or chased away, the coin didn't do it on its own. It was lost. The woman had some agency in the losing of that coin. And when she became aware of its disappearance, she tore her house upside down, looked in the same drawer 17 times, expecting this time it'll be there, playing hide and seek with me. And she finds it. Now, when she calls her neighbors and says, "Come and celebrate with me," how is that good stewardship? I mean, if you lose a coin and you call and have a celebration because you find it, aren't you then spending the coin that you just spent so much time looking for? So the question is, as I see it this morning, you found God. Let's use that expression for a moment. You found God. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with that awareness that God is in your life? You say that you're walking with Jesus, you're exploring this thing called spirituality in a 21st century context. Okay, great. Are you inviting anybody else to the celebration? This is what this parable speaks to. It's a wonderful way of saying, if you receive the grace of God, if you receive the gift of faith, if you accept those concepts, then isn't it going to be so much more fun to share that with other people who have had a similar experience? Then we get to the third parable, the one I didn't read. And guess which one that is? Think of the theme of being lost. Somebody.
The prodigal son.
There you go, the prodigal son. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Here's somebody that intentionally ran away, who was in the presence of life and goodness and health and relationship and threw it all away. Now, we can say about the lost sheep, well, the sheep didn't know. I mean, sheep are not very bright. Then we can say, well, the lost coin is an example of, well, people who don't know they're lost. And with that expression, not all who wander are lost. Here we had someone who threw it all away. And we're so quick to say they got what they deserved. This morning, a friend of mine in the Baltimore, Washington conference posted this welcome. There was an ad in the local paper in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, at Emmanuel United Methodist. And I want to share this with you as maybe a catalyst for a conversation. A lot of churches say they're warm and inviting. Here's a church in a fairly conservative, socially area, taking a very public stance that is sure to cause ruffle some feathers. And I think even my reading it this morning will ruffle some feathers. But I want to share with you as a way of connecting these 1900-plus-year-old stories with us here in the People's Republic of Boulder. It says, we extend a special welcome to those who are single, married, divorced, gay or straight, just not sure, filthy rich or dirt poor, no habla inglés, and a special welcome to those who are crying newborns, skinny as a rail, or could afford to lose a few pounds. We don't care if you're more churchy than the Pope, or haven't been in church since little Joey's baptism. We welcome you if you are over 60 but not yet grown up, or a teenager who's growing up too fast. We welcome soccer moms, NASCAR dads, starving artists, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, junk food eaters. We welcome you if you are having a problem, or you're down in the dumps, or if you don't like organized religion. We've been there too. If you blew all your offering money at the dog track, you're welcome here. We offer special welcome to those who think the earth is flat, who work too hard, don't work, can't spell, or because grandma's in town and wanted to go to church. We welcome those who are inked, pierced, or both. We welcome those who could use a prayer right now, had religion shoved down your throat as a kid, or got lost in traffic and wound up here by mistake. We welcome tourists, seekers, doubters, bleeding hearts, and you. we welcome you. Because if you're good enough for God, and you are, then you're good enough for us.
Amen.
Amen.
Now, I don't read that this morning as a way of trying to stir up anxiety that is present in our society. But I was thinking the other morning as I'm watching the traffic going up to the schools. There are people who pass by us, this building, every day, who are searching for what you have already found. Or are searching for what you are still searching for. The world is making a decision every day about life, about God, about you. For me this morning, the point of those parables isn't to say, well, thank God I am in the church. I've got it all figured out. I have all the answers I need. The people who want to know that there's at least one person who accepts them as they are. Jesus doesn't scold the sheep for being lost. He lifts it up and says, welcome home. The woman doesn't take the coin and throw it back in the box. She says to her neighbors, here it is. The prodigal son is welcomed home because the father was looking for him to return and said, I love you as you are, not as I expect you to be. The point of all of this is that we come and are found by God, by God's agency, and by God's love and purpose. Not because of any other factor. And this is something that you read into the very end of Teresa's The Way of Perfection. She says, it is not about my being perfect. It is accepting the belief of taking that leap of faith that I am loved by God. And if God can love me, and she keeps using the phrase, worthless woman that I am. She says, if God can use and find and speak to me, as Paul said to Timothy, God sought me out and put me in a place where I could be in service to God. And because of that, I lift up not Paul's gospel or Paul's baptism, but the life that is through and in and because of the Creator. That's something to celebrate. And that's something that I hear every time the choir is practicing, every time the bells are doing their thing early on Sunday morning, every time I hear the children playing at the end of the hall, every time Michelle answers the phone in the office, I hear the angels singing. Be the reason today that the angels say, let's party.